PSU banks and the consolidation. And what we've done is that we've looked at a list of banks which need either capital or they need to go through the grind of consolidation in order to survive. And at a time when markets are making all the hullabaloo about PSU banks and consolidation could be good news for some shareholders, bad news for some shareholders, how exactly is the mutual fund industry stacked up? So Poonam's got a list of first weak, not weak, but I would say very weak PSU banks.
That's true. In fact, Nikunj, if you look at the entire backdrop that's happening in the entire banking sector, consolidation seems to be there for sure. We already saw SBI, IDBI, LIC, and now Bank of Baroda announcement as well. So yes, there is a possibility that going ahead, given the circumstances the entire banking sector is now, we would see further consolidation going ahead. Although consolidation would be fairly positive from a longer term perspective in order to drive the entire efficiencies in the banking sector. But in the near term to medium term, it is definitely going to be an overhang on the entire system. If you look at the large PSU banks, be it a Canara Bank, be it a Bank of India, PNB, these banks do have very high NPAs as well on their books. Some of the banks like PNB is also slightly stressed in terms of the recent capital position that they have. Not just that, if you look at most of the mid-sized to smaller banks, most of them have very high NPAs. And also, within the entire mid-sized banks, it is only Indian Bank which has relatively better financials. Having said that, quite a few of the banks, for instance, 7 to 8 of the PSU banks do not have the top management MD and CEO position, still remains fairly vacant, and hence the entire decisions also in terms of further consolidation becomes slightly tricky. Besides that, 11 banks are under PCA still now. With this entire backdrop, it will become difficult to find the right entities to merge with, because most of them now, the banks which are now left out are largely weak banks, and hence it would be a very bad idea to merge all the weak banks. We do require some amount of further cleanup before the further merger of the banks to happen going ahead, or we do require certain more stronger banks there, which are of course lacking in the system at the moment, and hence I would say that the PSU bank consolidation would remain slightly an overhang in the near to medium term. And also authorities would also want to wait and watch out for how the merger of Bank of Baroda, Vijaya Bank as well as Dena Bank shapes up. Up on the list, if you look at the columns, it's a list of the banks which have high NPAs, high net NPAs that have panned out. And if you look at the top itself, we're seeing fairly large banks having high NPAs. That's just a representative of the kind of stress that we still have in the system, and hence an overhang for sure on the PSU banking sector in the near to medium term.
Okay, but within this decline, there are also some banks which are available cheap. Ajay, you've been chalking out that list. What are the names you've come up with?
Well, if you look at PSU space overall, Aisha, surely there are PSU banks which are way cheaper than some of the sector peers within PSU space, and also some of the sector peers in the private banking space. But when you look at overall PSU space, it is trading at much cheaper valuation, whether it's PSU banks, whether it's OMCs, whether it's capital good companies. PSUs as a pocket has traded much cheaper than their private sector peers, and also have underperformed the private sector peers. And we spoke to a couple of analysts who look at the PSU space closely. They believe that the discount is due to the inefficiencies, the large HR expenditure, the big employee strengths, and hence the productivity and return ratios per employee is low. And also, if you look at 1 year, 3 year, 5 year period, you would see these names have their own issues. PSU banks, Poonam already spoke about. Oil companies, we will be speaking more about, and we have seen how oil companies have eroded value last 3 years. Even capital good companies like Engineers India, logistics company Concor, NBCC, all these companies have massively underperformed in the last 1 year and have not really made any returns for the minority shareholders. And some analysts say a large part of it is because of issues like the way good bank, bad banks are being clubbed. Their minority shareholders also something which is getting a raw deal. Earlier HPCL, ONGC was merged. Again, the minority shareholders did not have much say. So there is a reason why PSUs are way cheaper than private sector peers.